Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. These are troubling times. We're concerned at the moment, most of us are concerned about what's happening in the Middle East, even though it's a long way away from all of us. The issue really, I think, is our sense of humanitarianism. So what's happening to all those people that are trapped in Gaza? It's, as I said in a previous video, it's a small area, small space with over 2 million people living in this confined space. And what's going to happen now that the Israel government has chosen to combat the terrorists and to have probably a land war where soldiers come in to Gaza and do whatever it is those soldiers do. And I can assure you that it won't necessarily be a pretty sight, that there's half of the people that live in Gaza are children. And how many children are going to be killed as a result of the Israelis coming in and randomly shooting people that they believe are terrorists? The thing that I think we need to be mindful of is that even though the terrorists are the ones that kind of started all of this, there is a history though as to why Palestine has become, or Palestinians have become, this separate nation, and how over 50 years now they've been fighting for a place of their own and have been subjugated to Israel and the Israeli government, and have been pushed out into these two remote areas, the West Bank and Gaza. And as a result of that, I can understand the frustration that they might feel. Now, there's an interesting take on this, which I think helps to explain it, that I came across on my X account. It makes it sound like it's an account you didn't have. But anyway, I found it there, and it's a reasonable explanation as to what's happening, and just reminds us that instead of us being aligned to Israel, which is what our government and many governments have done, we need to look upon this in a broader context as to what actually has happened to all these people, why this has happened to them, and what this continuing conflict now will eventually look like. And in my view, there's some really insensitive people on both sides. There's the terrorists who came in and randomly killed people, and then there's the Israeli government now who will randomly come in and do exactly the same, but do it under the guise of retaliation and revenge. And that we need to be mindful that this is going to be a humanitarian crisis, and all of us need to call our governments out for the lack of response that they're likely to do, because they're just likely to side with Israel, which in my view is wrong. So I just want to play this clip, and this better explains for all of us, I think.
First of all, explain to us what Gaza life is like when it's not in active conflict with Israel.
So, Alex, it's a great question. It's an important question to consider tonight, because what happened in Israel was horrific, deadly, heartbreaking, and the Israeli government is obviously going to retaliate, as you mentioned there. There have already been retaliatory airstrikes, but there's talk of escalation, of a ground invasion, of exacting a price. And you have to understand, when we talk about Gaza in the West, for a lot of people, it's very easy to conflate Hamas, which is a militant group that carries out acts of vicious terror, as they did this weekend, with Gaza, which is a place that contains 2.2 million people, Alex, half of them children. Half of the 2.2 million people are children, and it's one of the most densely populated places on planet Earth. You've got 2.2 million people crowded into 141 square miles. So they automatically become the victims of Israeli airstrikes because it's so crowded, because it's so densely populated. And it's basically like living, Alex, in an open-air prison. And those aren't my words. Those are the words of the former head of Israeli intelligence just a few months ago, Tamir Pardo. He said, "We're treating Gaza like an open-air prison." So that is the context. It is so important for us to remember when we talk about Gaza as some kind of, strange, faraway place, people shouting with guns. It's actually a real place with real people, families, and they're living in horrific conditions, Alex. 59% of Gazans live in poverty, 63% food insecure, 70% of young people unemployed, 90% of Gazans have no access to clean drinking water. The UN Secretary General called it hell on earth. How much more hellish is it going to get in the coming days?
First of all, explain.
And that's the point. The point is that this is a terrible place to live. It's and it's the way that it is because the Israeli government have decided to annex it in these most inhumane ways, to the point whereby they have so much power over them because they're now going to cut off their electricity supplies. They're going to cut off food access. They're going to, in a sense, they're isolating them and putting a moat around them and preventing them from surviving. And as was just discussed, the reality is that their conditions are horrific, period, end of story. And they're going to get worse. And we need to shout out as a country, as a nation, as human beings, we need to be able to say, regardless of what Hamas have done, the conditions which are now being created for the Palestinian people in Gaza is simply wrong. And a solution needs to be found, not a military solution, but a reasonable, humane solution that ensures that these people have a better chance of living a life, I guess, that they want to live, living the life that we get to live here in Australia. To be the people that they can be, as opposed to suppressed and subjugated by the Israeli government. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and please subscribe to my channel. This is a really contentious issue. This isn't about whether you're Jewish or whether you're Muslim or anything else. This is about actually who we are as human beings, and we must see it that way. Thanks everybody for being with me. Take care. Look after yourselves, and just make sure that you keep yourself safe.